you have to find the equation of a parabola given the vertex and the focus. So start by graphing this. Here's your vertex. 2, 0 is your focus. This is your vertex. So from this, tell me which way your parabola is going to go. To the right, because we know it has to go around our focus, right? So this is a y squared. So we're going to start with this formula. Y minus k squared equals 4p x minus h. And we're going to plug in your vertex. Your vertex is your hk. Let's just do one step at a time. So therefore, if we plug in 0, we can break this down to y squared equals 4p times x. The only thing we're missing is p. So how do I determine p from this? Let me just write the points here. How do you determine what p is? Good. It's the focus minus the vertex. So if we do 2 minus 0, we get 2. But rather than memorize the formula, and Chris said it was the distance in here, distance is always positive. However, we need to know if I'm plugging in a negative number or a positive number in there. If it's going to the right, is p negative or positive? Positive. So therefore, this distance is 2, and my p also has to be positive 2, because I am opening to the right. If I was opening to the left and my distance was 2, then my p would be negative 2. So I take this and I slide this into here. And then you just work the rest out. This is the equation of your parabola that has a vertex of 0, 0 and a focus of 2, 0. Yes? Sorry, Daniel. Okay? Now, if you want to check this on your calculator, you can't put y squared into there, but when you take the square root of both sides, you get y equals plus or minus. So you can in your y1 put the positive 1, and you can in your y2 put the negative 1. Okay, and that will graph this for you, and you can look to see where your vertex is. You can't really find your focus on this, but you can see that it does resemble your vertex. It's kind of hard because you don't have any other points. If you took an xy point off of that, any xy point, and plugged it in, it's still kind of hard to tell from that, but at least you can get the basic sketch of it. Okay? The vertex, which is on your page here somewhere on the bottom. Focus minus the vertex is your p. But rather than memorize it, you know your p is the distance. Distance, keep it positive. Now, determine now that it's 2 units away, but because I'm opening to the right, it's a positive 2. If our focus was on this side and it was negative, then I'd make it a negative 2. Rather than memorize the formula, because even with the formula, if my focus was here and it wrapped this way, this would be negative 2, 0. When we put that in, and you say negative 2 minus 2, you get messed up with your negative signs. So, therefore, my focus is negative 2 minus my 0. That one comes out to be negative 2. But, you know, if you're not on 0, 0, and you've got a negative number, it kind of like plays with it a little bit. So, up or down is the same way. Find your distance like we were doing it to graph these guys. I would rather you not rely on a formula, because really after this week, would you remember the formula? No. And if you're saying h plus pk, or h, k plus p. What differences, where did you memorize from? So I rather do this without memorizing, do it through sketching. Now, let's try this guy. Is this going to be a y squared or an x squared? A y squared. So let's start off. These are the only two things that I need you to know. These formats. And it's basically the same, except if y is the square, it goes on the left. If x is the square, it goes on the left. Now, what's your vertex for this? Not your vertex.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah.
0, 0.
The focus is negative.
That's just a point on your curve. Your focus would be in here somewhere, right? Your focus is on the axis of symmetry, where your vertex is. That's just a random point on your graph. So let's plug in your 0, 0 for h and k. Let's just do this one step at a time. So there's your y squared equals 4px. Now, you're almost there. You just need to find p. So to find p, I would have to know the distance between my vertex and my focus, or my vertex and my directrix, which they didn't give us. But notice they gave you a point on the graph, an x and a y. So if you were to plug in a y for 6 and an x of -2, you should be able to find p, right? You can solve one equation for one variable only, not 3. So if we can get rid of the x and the y, which is a random point on the graph, we can solve for p. So this gives us -8p, and divide by -8, and we didn't come out very pretty. And and my p is negative, and shouldn't my p be negative? Because aren't I opening to the left? Yep. And we'll reduce this by 4. So 9/2. Okay, now all we have left to do is plug this back in. Take this piece and plug in your p. You need to give me the standard equation. So this will give you -36/2, -18x. Okay, so now, and this one actually works out better for you to check, because if you took the square root, oops, you can't take the square root of this guy. So we're not going to take the square root. Okay, we can. So again, you need to find the pieces that you have and see what you need to find. Everybody okay with this one? Remember how you do your line y equals mx plus b, and you also had a point slope? If they gave you a point, you had to find the slope. Then you had to find your b part of it. So once you found your b, then you had to plug it all back in again. It's kind of the same situation. Once you find your p, plug it back in. But we do have y squared equals -18x. And we can tell that p says it's opening to the left, so we're okay with that. Good? All right, let's try another one. I'm going to have you guys try number 4. You guys try. So, you know this one was an x squared, right? What's the vertex? So, first thing to do, plug the vertex in. X -3 squared, y minus a -3 gives me a positive, right? So put the vertex in. Now, you got 3 variables there and only one equation, and you need to find p. So can you eliminate the x and the y? Yep, there's a random point on your graph. X, y. So plug them in. Is p going to be a negative or a positive according to our graph? a positive. So 0 minus 3 is negative 3 squared, 9. This gives me 3 times 4, 12, right? Good so far? Solve for p. Divide by 12. So I get 3 over 4. Good so far? Okay. What I have to do now is plug my p back in. Bring it into this one, because then everything else will be set up for my equation. 3 over 4, y plus 3. Out comes the 4, and it's 3, and see if that makes sense. There's my vertex, there's my positive, it's opening positive, and if I have to find my focus now in my directrix, I could. It's coincidentally that it's on the same line as your vertexes. Yes.
Can you use the other equations? Because I did that and that was the answer.
You can't, because your other one is y squared. That opens right and left.
So that's what I did.
That's all you had to do. So all you had to do. You only got 3 variables. Well, actually, you have 5 variables. Your x, your y, your h, your k, and your p. You can only solve for 1 variable. So somehow you have to eliminate the other 4. H and k is a vertex. X and y could be a random point on your graph, which this one happened to be. You had to figure out that point was your 0, 0, a random point on your graph. Sometimes they give you the distance from p. You can see that on your graph. And sometimes not. Now, most of you are on the right track. A lot of you are on the right track. Maybe just a few little math errors there. Okay, well, let's try the next one. Next one has a directrix to it. The vertex is the origin. So let's start at your origin. And the directrix is a line x equals 3. And this is my vertex. Which way is my parabola opening up? Where? To the left. Good. It's got to be away from my directrix. It can't cut through my directrix, can it? So is there anything you can tell by looking at that? Alicia, can you tell anything by looking at that? Okay, stare at it for a few minutes. Okay. Ah! How far apart are these guys? 3. Good help to her. 3. So what does that represent? Which part of your equation? P. Good. Yes, we're all working with Alicia to get this. So now, I've got something that opens left, so I've got the y again. What parts do I know? I know P. Oh, very good. It is negative 3. The distance is 3, but P itself has to be negative because it opens to the left. Good. What else do I know? I got to eliminate something else here. H and K, and what are they? 0, 0. There's my vertex. My vertex is at the origin. So y minus 0, is it okay if I just write the y squared? And x minus 0. Look how nice this is. And is it opening left like we thought it would? Mm-hmm. Okay? Yes.
I don't have to do up or down.
Well, because when they gave us this to start with the 0, 0, and they said, well, no, you're right. They didn't give us which way to go. They just gave us the, whoops. They gave us the 0, 0. And they gave you the directrix. Your parabola can't cut through your directrix. So therefore, it can't go up. It can't go down. It can't go right. The only thing is it goes away from it. Your directrix is always behind or above or below. It's never through your parabola. So we really didn't get a choice. We had to go that way, which puts us to a negative p. So this distance is a positive 3. That's your p. And then because it's working out to the left, it's a negative. Use your sketch to help you get there. Good?